Yes, Mentors and Me show is still here to serve you. And so we are still in the business of promoting brands and ensuring that such brand is well positioned for global patronage. So this is Mentors and Me show, once again with Olumide Benson. And today we will be continuing on our discourse as regards the 7 major guides to starting or owning the business. In our previous view, we've been able to highlight 3 of these guides. We talked about idea, we talked about know-how, and we also talked about another intrinsic quality which has to do with your passion, your drive, and your willpower. Now, having had this intrinsic value, now we are now moving to the other thing that is as essential as intrinsic values, which are intrinsic. Now, for this intrinsic value, I think able to fulfill all the intrinsic value, then the next thing that should come to play, or that should be what every person who is intending to start a business or to own a business of his or her own should think about, is the number 4th point, which is how to source for finance. Which is, so as a result of this, this view is going to be titled Sourcing Finance. Having the idea to start your own business, having the know-how, and then having the passion, the drive, and the willpower that will allow you to be able to take the dream business to a profitable venture and to the promised land. Then there's another thing that you need to have, which are all intrinsic. These are just the intrinsic value. The extrinsic value, which is so paramount, which should be the next thing you should think of, is how to source your finance. So in this case, we'll be talking about several methods with which you can source finance to be able to start a business. There are several methods that's been in use over time for people who have started business and who also intend to get into business. Several kinds of methods has been employed so far to source for finance, but today we will just be examining few of these methods. We may just limit this discourse to about 5 of those methods, and then we examine them one after the other. So basically, we need to ensure that for every business we need to start, we must have the financial power. So getting this financial power, which is the capital that is needed to be able to start the business, no matter how small it is, there must be something that has been set aside for us to be able to start this business. And so because of that, we'll now be looking at the various forms of sourcing for finance. The first one on the list is going to be what we call the personal funding. Personal funding in the sense that for every business that you intend to start, for every idea that you have created, and which you have been able to discover that you have the know-how to be able to go on it, and then you have the intrinsic value, one of the intrinsic value, very prominent intrinsic value, which is the passion, the drive, and the willpower. Now, then having understood all those things, that you're ready, you're good to go on this business, then what is the finance that you have on ground? What amount of money or capital, what amount of resources have you set aside to be able to start this business? The first method to be able to source this fund is personal funding. Personal funding in the sense that it is believed that for everything you want to do, you must have some savings, some money that has been kept aside somewhere. It may not be physical cash. It may just be some materials that are needed that you would have even used money to purchase, but you may have been so fortunate that you have this material around you. Looking at this personal funding, it means that you have to look into your own savings and then bring out something and set this aside as a way of starting this business. So for you to be able to start a business, there must be something that has been set aside as the material or cash to be able to begin this journey. The reason why you need to have a personal funding is because every startup business is just as good as a trial business. No matter how superb, no matter how professional, no matter how detailed your proposition may be, nobody will want to believe you, in the sense that planning is the step forward to acting. But most times planning may not be what you will experience when you are facing the real situation. Which means, what I'm just trying to say in a nutshell is that there's a place for planning and there's a place for actions. Now the place of actions is filled with so much uncertainty. So that's the reason why for a startup business you may not be able to get anybody to support you, except you put some things on ground to show that you are really ready to do this business. You are only getting into a very risky venture if you are just starting up. So for you to be able to start up, it means that you must be able to get some things on ground for yourself to be able to start, because if you have to look at the fact that, oh, you have to get people to give you this, you have to get people to give you that, you may not be able to start. However, that's one of the sources of for fund. So personal savings is the first one. Then we are going to talk about debt funding. Now for the debt funding, for you to start up a business, of course you may be lucky enough to be able to have some people to give you a kind of loan to be able to start up your business. But however, the probability of you getting a loan to be able to start up a business is quite slim for a startup business. Despite you may still succeed in getting loan depending on the way you are going about it, depending on your wherewithal with people, depending on your relationship with people. Yes, you may still succeed in getting a loan for a startup business, but there's need for us to clarify the fact that debt funding is as simple as you getting people to give you some particular amount of money or material for you to be able to start this business, but which must be paid back at the end of the day. Meaning that it is most times debt funding may come with a penalty. That is to say, it may come with a kind of interest, which means that you've been able to source this money to be able to do this business, and at a particular point in time it must be returned back with a benefit. So for debt funding, which is also another source of getting funds to start the business, which is the second point that I'm talking about, if the debt funding is accompanied with you making a promise of returning back whatever you have gotten, and at the same time most times you may have to return it back even with the benefit. So that is the system with debt funding. But for startup business, I have to be frank and I have to make this known here that your chances is very slim when it comes to debt funding. However, you can still get debt funding through your relationship with your with relatives, with friends. That's why the debt funding sometimes can come with emotional kind of funding. Emotional funding in the sense that you may get debt from people who are close to you, who just want to assist, and then with the promise that you have to return back the fund at a particular period of time. So that's debt funding. So let's also look at another point, which is very crucial for you to be able to source funds to be able to start up a business, and that is what we call the equity or the angel funding. Now, for the equity funding, in order for you to be able to start your dream business or your idea to make it a profitable venture, then you may decide, if you don't have the enough resources to be able to start, you may decide to go by the way of equity funding. Equity funding in the sense that you can decide to open up your idea or your business by inviting people who want to go in line with the dream by bringing in their own resources, and then which will now automatically give them a stake in the business. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that if you're starting a business and you're looking for funds and you seem not to have enough funds to be able to engage in this business, all you need to do is to open up your business for a kind of partnership, which will allow you to get people who will bring in their own fund, which is called the equity funding, which will bring in their own fund, and at the same time they will not have a stake in this business. In this case, you are not returning back the money, neither are you supposed to pay back with the benefit, but you are both sharing the risk, and at the same time you will also be sharing the profit. Sometimes when you look at this equity funding system, the equity funding system may be one of the safest systems of starting up a business, but however, it is not an easy system to adopt, in the sense that it may not be that easy for you to be able to convince investors, because it's a business that is just started. But if you are smart enough, and if you are if you are good enough and you know how to pave your way for whatever you want, you may still succeed in getting this kind of equity funding. But it's one of the safest methods that anyone can use to be able to start a business, because in this case you're sharing the risk. Or what we may see as a disadvantage of the equity funding is that you will have to share your profits with others. So if they are bringing in their investment or their resources will now give them a particular amount of stake or interest in your business. The reason why the equity funding may be one of the safest methods to adopt is that it also helps your business to grow, and it helps your business to stabilize, in the sense that the decision that we'll be making in this business will not just be a decision from one perspective, but will be an holistic decision, because it will be coming from different perspectives. Every stakeholders in this business will be involved in making this decision. So it's a way of helping startup business. But the reality about it is that it is difficult most times to get people to buy into your own dream, and it's also difficult most times to make people see your dream that you are not really actualized. Most times people trust you when they see that you've been able to do something and they've been able to quantify the result of what you have done. But when in a situation where you are yet to actualize what you have in mind, and then there's no measurement with which people can measure the result, it is going to be a profitable venture, or it's not going to be a worthwhile venture. If there's no measurement, there's no way with which they can measure what will be the after effect of this business, then it may be difficult for you to be able to get anyone to go along with you in this business. So that's that about equity funding, which may not be that easy, but of course it is one of the method that is needed to start or own a business. Now, the other one we are going to examine is what we call the crowdfunding. What is crowdfunding? Crowdfunding is just a way of sourcing for fund, or sourcing for the finance, or sourcing for the resources to be able to start a business. But in this case, you are doing it with a large amount of people, which is unlike the angel funding or the equity funding, where you are bringing in a specified number of people and then to join your business and you share the stake together. But in crowdfunding, you are bringing so much people in that you may not even know, that you may not even have any relationship or any link with, but with the intention that they will also be having a benefit from this business. So that's crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a kind of system where a lot of people with unlimited number can come on board, and then with a small proportion of resources investing in that business to be able to make it an wholesome resources. In the case of equity funding, people who are coming on board are coming with substantial amount of money, but in the case of crowdfunding, it's like getting a substantial amount in small proportion to be able to measure up to get you the substantial amount that you need. However, the crowdfunding also has its own cons, in the sense that for a business that is just starting up, the crowdfunding may not be easy for you to adopt, in the sense that like I said earlier on, people want to see what you do, and they also want to trust what you do. They want to understand what you're doing for them to be able to put in their resources, no matter how little. Challenge that a startup business can actually encounter when it comes to adopting crowdfunding is the issue of credibility. Credibility in the sense that a startup business has no credibility. A startup business is just a business that is just starting, and so people can really not trust and tell how far this business will go. Neither can they tell if the venture will be profitable. So because of that, crowdfunding may not be that easy for a startup business to adopt, but however, it's still one of the sources through which you can source for fund. If you have your way and you are able to convince the public, or you are able to convince a whole large number of people to be able to invest with their meager proportion, and then make it a substantial amount for you to be able to get the business done. So that's another way through which you can also source for fund. Now let's also look at another source through which you can get funding for a startup business. The other source that we're going to examine here through which you can get funding for a startup business is the government grant. Government grants in the sense that for every endeavor, for most endeavors to say, the government of every society has a kind of fund that's been designated for such endeavor, in order to be able to help people who intend to go into that endeavor, in order to encourage them towards that endeavor, because most times such endeavor may be an endeavor that is a long-term business. So it may not be easy for individuals to want to get into such, but the government always makes some provision, which is called the government grant, in order to be able to encourage these people, in order for them to get into this business, even when it's a long-term business. But the problem that is also associated with government grant when it comes to a startup business is that you must be able to convince beyond a reasonable doubt. It means that because you will be facing a lot of competition, you are not the only one that is interested in that business. For a government grant is a public fund which is open to everybody. So you can imagine the number of people that want to do the same business you are also doing. So which means if you are going for the government grant, it means that your case must be exceptional. Exceptional in the sense that what you have in mind that you want to get into as a venture, you must be able to prove to an extent where you will be able to outshine others who also want to do the same endeavor that you want to get into. So which means that the government grant is highly competitive. So that's a limiting factor for you accessing the government grant. However, it is a way for startup business to be able to source funds. So at this point, we'll be drawing a curtain on this very view. We just want to see you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can always get update of our subsequent videos, and at the same time you can send your comment to us via our social media handles. You can always get us on mentorsminttv on Facebook, same you can do with Instagram, same you can do with LinkedIn, and same you can do with Twitter. So see you again. Cheers.